Neighbours, the 10 best memories, from Scott and Charlene to Madge's ghost. Once upon a time, Neighbours had good friends. But with producers Fremantle Media failing to find a new UK backer to save the Aussie soap, Neighbours is set to end in June after a groundbreaking 37-year run. First airing on the 7 network in 1985, it was taken over by Channel 10 just 4 months after launch and was transformed into water cooler fodder and a Logies award-generating machine. At its peak, more than 1 million Australians tuned in each night to catch up on the exploits of these typical Aussie families living in a cul-de-sac in suburban Melbourne. Then the Brits jumped on board. Ratings soared. One of its most popular storylines, the wedding of Scott, Jason Donovan, and Charlene, Kylie Minogue, attracted almost 20 million viewers in the UK. But Ramsay Street's lights began to dim in the 2000s. Home and Away took a chunk of its audience and, by the beginning of 2010, ratings plummeted. It moved to the UK's budget Channel 5 in 2008, and 3 years later in Australia, the 10 network moved it from a slot after the nightly news on its main channel to one of the broadcaster's secondary channels. But even when it was announced that it was facing cancellation, when Channel 5 pulled out, Neighbours was still pulling in 1.5 million viewers across the channel's 2 daily screenings in the UK. Let's take a walk down Ramsay Street and look at the 10 memories and moments that made Neighbours great. 1. Scott and Charlene's wedding, 1987, the real royal wedding. It sent baby's breath stocks soaring and was viewed by an audience of 19.6 million in the UK. Kylie's career was officially launched and a homegrown superstar was born. And a generation of Australians and Britons are now called Kylie and Charlene. 2. When Harold was swept out to sea, 1991, poor Harold did a Harold Holt. Was he really dead? Nah, of course not. He just had amnesia after being picked up by a random boat. In reality, it was contract negotiations that caused actor Ian Smith's departure. He returned and left Ramsay Street many times over the years, in 1996, 2008, 2011 and 2015. 3. The death of Helen Daniels, 1997, mother of Neighbours. Helen was one of the original Ramsay Street characters. There wasn't a dry eye in the house when the Erinsborough matriarch died in her sleep on her sofa after watching a 10-year-old video of the wedding of her grandson Scott and Charlene. For the first time, no credits were shown at the end, given the character's importance to the show. Lou Carpenter, Tom Oliver, Madge Bishop, Anne Charleston, and Harold Bishop, Ian Smith. Photograph, Channel 5-4. When Madge died, with Harold by her side, 2001, Madge was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer and contracted septicemia shortly afterwards. She died, in bed, with her true love Harold by her side. The end? Of course not. She came back to Ramsay Street as a ghost to guide Harold through tough times. Harold eventually moved to Port Douglas. Almost every character written out of Neighbours moved to Queensland. Her ghost didn't go with him. Toadie and Dee make it to the altar, and then she dies. 2003, The Beauty and the Beast. Toadfish married the angelic Dee. Happy ending? Of course not. The union ended in tragedy when Toadie accidentally drove their car off a cliff and into the sea on the way to the reception. Of course Dee's body was not found and Toadie was forced to accept that she had died. So it is hardly surprising that Dee came back or that she had an evil doppelganger called Andrea who threw Dee over a cliff in Byron Bay. No, that's not even the end of Dee either. She eventually moved to Alaska. Carl Kennedy, Alan Fletcher, and Izzy Hoyland, Natalie Basingthwaite. Photograph, Fremantle Media Shutterstock 6. Carl and Izzy's affair, 2004, Dr. Carl just couldn't keep it in his pants. Just a few years after his tempestuous affair with young Sarah, he was back at it with homewrecker Izzy, played by pop chanteuse Natalie Basingthwaite. And his poor wife, Susan, was left to pick up the pieces, yet again. There was a pregnancy, paternity doubts, and a miscarriage. Classic soap fodder. 7. The Erinsborough Tornado, 2014. The freak weather event is a standard soapy plot, all that death and destruction nicely sets up a myriad of storylines revolving around desperate sexual encounters, proposals and missing characters. As the tornado approached Erinsborough, Paige and Mark gave in to their desires. Daniel proposed to Amber after they rescued Paul, and Susan performed an emergency tracheotomy. She may have been a school teacher, but she was married to a doctor, so in Soapland she's more than qualified. Lauren kissed Brad. A wombat was rescued. Someone was trapped in a portaloo. David, Takaya Honda, and Aaron, Matt Wilson, tie the knot. Photograph, Network 10-8. The first same-sex marriage on Aussie TV after the legalization of same-sex marriage in Australia, 2018. This was the most memorable Neighbours wedding since Scott and Charlene. Neighbours aired the first same-sex wedding to ever screen on Australian TV when David Tanaka, Takaya Honda, and Aaron Brennan, Matt Wilson, walked down the aisle. The historic episode also featured the prominent marriage equality campaigner Magda Subanski as the couple's celebrant. Minogue and Donovan's duet Especially for You played during the wedding scene. 9. The 35th anniversary blockbuster week, with 5 weddings and 3 deaths, 2020, when too much Neighbours is never enough. Neighbours celebrated its 35th anniversary in March 2020. The special week consisted of the 5 regular weekday episodes, as well as 5 extra episodes as part of a series titled Neighbours, Endgame. There were 5 weddings, 3 deaths, luggage bombs, tropical islands, someone trapped in a mineshaft, a body in a dinghy, a storm, a venomous snake, and much, much more. Guy Pearce as Mike Young. Photograph, from Mantle Media Rex 10. The Ones Who Made It, 1985 to 2022. Despite its declining popularity in recent years, it cannot be forgotten that Neighbours launched the international careers of countless Australian stars, including Kylie Minogue, Margot Robbie and Guy Pearce. Minogue is one of our most successful international exports. Robbie has been nominated twice for an Oscar. And Pearce has won a Screen Actors Guild Award, an Emmy and been nominated for a Golden Globe. The kids did all right.